How realistic is this thing?
How crazy did the engineers get when they built this robot?
They were like, we're going all in. We're going to be talking more about that because, this is fascinating, all in the hopes of helping us understand our body's reactions to heat. Meanwhile, storms continue across a lot of the country, and the weekends.
How many disruptive, damaging storms and how much heat we've had. Now, as promised, though, the Northeast got a little bit of a break. Look at those highs in D.C. and even Boston.
I heard it was spectacular. I'm so envious of everybody that was up there. But everybody was like, we're going back outside. Other areas not as lucky, of course, still keeping it hot here on the 31st of July for Dallas. Woof. Potential record highs and record warm lows still coming our way. So South Central in particular, but parts of the Southeast. Florida has been crazy hot as well. We're going to keep it going today.
And with that ridge moving to the east, will the monsoon finally show up in the southwest? We'll talk about that. But both basins got a lot going on in the tropics. Are any of these land threatening? That's the big question.
That is the big question. You're going to be breaking that down. So we've got a lot to talk about here on this Monday show as we get ready to close opportunities of rain and stronger storms. I don't think we're seeing widespread severe weather, but at least an isolated severe risk is possible. So here's the area to watch today. Northern Plains back into the front range. So Denver points east. And then we've got a zone into parts of Missouri and northern Arkansas and another area down into southern Arkansas and throughout the state of Louisiana. So we've got some thunderstorms out there now. Again, nothing crazy organized. And I don't think we're going to be looking at potent storms top to bottom. It's just these areas will see some rain showers, some thunderstorms, and some of those could be on the punchy side. We've got that area of high pressure, that ridge settled in the middle of the country. And the storms are generally moving around that high. So the heat and the sunshine and just the intensity of all that continues into parts of, say, Oklahoma and Texas. It's up around that ridge where we still are able to work with that heat. But for that ridge as well. Here in Missouri, we've got some thunderstorms. They've been weakening, though, as they've moved off to the west and southwest of Kirksville. A few more also doing the same thing south of I-80 in the state of Nebraska. But later today, a little bit more activity given all of the humidity. So when we look at the moisture over the last 3 hours, you can see we've got a ton of it in this zone. So this is going to help to fuel some active weather through the second half of today. We'll start here at 1 o'clock local time, and all that available energy across the Mississippi River Valley into the northern plains. Maybe a later start for some of these areas around St. Louis. I think you'll see some passing showers, but the real intense stuff, or the stuff with the potential to be intense, won't come until really late evening and overnight hours. So wouldn't be surprised if between Kansas City and St. Louis, you woke up to some thunderstorms and then you're like, oh, great. Now I'm up. I'm going to go to the bathroom, check my emails. I'm never going back to bed. Through tomorrow morning, we do have the possibility of some flash flooding from parts of Iowa down through the state of Missouri. So with that training pattern or the repeated thunderstorms over the same areas, we could see some localized flash flooding issues for places like Columbia. When we look down into parts of the Front Range and the northern tier, quiet now, but these areas also, Dr. Knapp, have a possibility of some stronger storms. And then we've got to look at the southeast and Florida.
Yeah, now
it is 96 in both those areas. I kind of wanted to stay on that tower cam and see where we were headed with that. That was exciting. New Orleans, your average high this time of year is 92. It's here in the late part of July, early August. So you would expect it to be hot. But even by these time of year standards, it's really hot in these areas. 98 on Monday, so today. Tomorrow we'll be pushing triple digits. That's not usual. When we look through Florida and along the Gulf Coast, usually we've got all that moisture. You're not going to see these kind of temperatures, those, triple-digit potential highs. And we're staying at 98 Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, even Sunday, 97. So unusually hot. And I know you're like, well, their average is 92, but it's not common to get those kind of temps. And we've seen that heat continue across the South Central. That's where a lot of the heat is focused today, down along the Gulf Coast as well. 60 million people above 95 degrees. Tomorrow, nearly the same amount. We'll slowly chip away at it, but not by much. 54 million people still above 95 degrees on Wednesday. Alerts are in effect. We've got heat advisories. We've got excessive heat warnings. So unfortunately, we've still got to be really aware of the heat, what it can do to us, our pets, our kids, student athletes. I know we are very much in like football training season. Got to watch those athletes as they're out there on the fields. San Antonio today, topping out around 103, 105 for Dallas, 101 in Oklahoma City, 102 in Wichita, 98 Jackson, 94 for Atlanta. And then when we look at the dew points, it's muggy, even in a place like Dallas. Yeah, you're not in the 70s, but still mid-60s. It's humid, upper 60s for Oklahoma City and Little Rock. That's getting us into miserable territory. And we are miserable where dew points are in the low to mid-70s. Actually, can't leave out Houston. You've got that as well. 66 for Atlanta, so not the best, but certainly not the worst. Heat index today, expect heat indices as high as 105 for Wichita, 104 Oklahoma City, 108 in Dallas, and nearing triple digits for Atlanta. How about nearing 110, Dr. Nab, in New Orleans?
Oh, speaking of 110, we've hit
Focused right over the Northeast, and that's brought us that comfortable cool down. The rest of us going, oh, man, we want what they're having, right? We're not getting it. That dip stays focused, especially across the Northeast and New England states. A little bit muggier as we get down into the mid-Atlantic. So drier air, that's the name of the game. That's what they're enjoying, whereas everyone else keeps that moisture around courtesy of a stalled front. That's where the moisture tends to focus and why we've got those shower and thunderstorm chances. As we get into the late part of the week, now our cold front starts to move south, and that's going to shunt a lot of that moisture into our southern states as opposed, again, to the Ohio Valley and the Northeast. So you guys actually stay pretty good through most of the week. Not the case farther to the west. So portions of the plains, the Midwest, that's where we've got to watch for repeated rounds of showers and storms. And because of that, we've got repeated opportunities for flash flooding through Tuesday, Wednesday, even Thursday. Missouri, you're going to be the spot to watch for that potential of flooding. Rainfall to come in these areas could be as high as 3 to 5 inches through Sunday. So you can sense that we're going to be stormy in spots across the country, particularly Tennessee, Mississippi River Valley, into the Missouri River Valley. Some of these areas are going to pick up some decent rainfall totals by the end of the week. And then, Dr. That, we'll keep it that way as long as we can, right? Coming up on the show, we are introducing you down trees. They're still doing cleanup today across this part of the country. Georgetown reporting a wind gust of 84 miles an hour. Andrews there in Maryland, 80-mile-per-hour winds. And Talbot, 70-mile-per-hour winds. And then a few spots up into the New York metro area getting into that mid-60-mile-per-hour range. There were wind reports, though, coming fast and furious. Also some flash flood reports, and across sections of upstate and capital region New York, we had some problems, but a lot of those really focused into our mid-Atlantic and Northeast states. Over the last 72 hours, also a tornado and funnel cloud reported across parts of New England. The tornado there in Massachusetts, not far from Foxborough, an EF1 with winds of 105 miles an hour. Not too long on the ground, though. 0.16 miles, so what, a little under a quarter mile. This wasn't a long track, but strong enough to do some damage there, not far from Foxborough. Here's the forecast for today. Well, tree cutters are in high demand around the Northeast after those weekend storms. Spotty storms could interrupt cleanup. Meteorologist Jordan Steele has a look at the work to be done. Let's give you another look. T-Mobile coast-to-coast forecast. Voting over that. No, that'll flip you over real quick. Welcome back into Weather Underground. I'm Alex Wilson here with Dr. Rick Nab. We've got you covered for all things stormy, hot, and we're moving into the month of August.
Yeah, and I personally know some people who are going back to school this week.
Yes.
But I also personally know some people whose school starts later and they're on vacation this week.
Right.
It's really what kind of week you're going to have has a lot to do with that school schedule. That's very controversial, a big topic of conversation this time of year.
A hot take, I do feel like August 1st is too early. Like, it's it's still the summer, right?
Yeah,
like,
but they get more breaks in the fall and the spring.
Yeah.
So, you know, it's not all bad.
All right. Well, yeah, so up to around 80 through the rest of the week, but you do see most days have at least the chance of afternoon thunderstorms, and those would produce those heavy rainfall rates. So here is the flash flood watch, or rather the flood watch, goes into effect this afternoon, continues through this evening. We've got the I-25 corridor from southeast parts of Wyoming down through the Denver metro area, and then a little bit of western Nebraska, including the Scotts Bluff area under that threat. Now, that's through tomorrow morning. We've got areas like Cheyenne, areas like Denver. Now, Tuesday into Wednesday, we're still watching these areas. And guess what? Wednesday into Thursday, not much changing. We saw that repeated forecast in Cheyenne. We've got repeated thunderstorm chances into a place like Denver as well. So Denver, your 3-day total, we're forecasting less than an inch, but with thunderstorms moving through, that could tip the scales. So with showers and thunderstorms, hit or miss, the forecast usually has a tough time with this. So it's really going to be in those areas where where the rainfall footprint is repeated or where we had a really prolific storm move overhead. So don't, get too wrapped up in the, we shouldn't see that much, because if you get a big thunderstorm, you're going to see a lot. Those high temperatures under the ridge giving energy for those storms. Well, we continue to talk about the extreme heat that's focused over a lot of the country, including today, the south central U.S. Look at these highs. Oklahoma City, 101, 106 in Dallas, even approaching triple digits in New Orleans. Then with the humidity, it feels even hotter than that. So we have to continue to monitor ourselves and our friends and our family members for both heat exhaustion and heat stroke. Now, symptoms of heat exhaustion would be lightheadedness, excessive sweating, a pale, clammy skin. You can have nausea or vomiting and a rapid, weak pulse. Heat stroke, a little bit different. A throbbing headache. You're going to go from excessive sweating to no sweating, and it's a rapid, strong pulse. In cases of heat stroke, somebody may lose consciousness. So, Dr. Knabb, so important to monitor folks for these and seek medical attention if they're suffering any symptoms.
Absolutely crucial. You can.
Jan Medell, co-principal investigator. Let's start with the robot. How did you come about designing it, and what's the goal of Andy the robot?
Andy the robot was developed,
accompanied by a mobile weather station, so that's actually helping you get the weather data along with the response from the robot.
Yes. So Andy works closely with
to infer what happens to the human body, but you can also use that to design things like clothing that may be more heat resistant. Anything else?
Exactly. So we're really interested in
shower chances, particularly through the second half of today. We've got the hit or miss showers and storms, but look at the afternoon wears on across the 95 corridor there in eastern Florida. Western Florida, you'll still see some action, but I do think the eastern half of the state going to get walloped later on. Very, very heavy downpours. That's going to leave a lot of those roadways slow. And we'll watch those airports as well. They could see some brief halts to operations when we get rain of that kind. Clearwater Beach, you've got 89 on your thermometer tomorrow, Wednesday, close to that on Thursday. We'll make it to around 90. Mix of sun and clouds both days, so pack the sunscreen if this is your beach week. Watching for the afternoon thunderstorms by Friday. But, if this is your beach week by Friday, you may be toasty already. You may be like, you know what, I'm good with the sun. I got to go back to work on Monday. Let's make it a TV day, a puzzle day inside the beach house. Severe thunderstorms today. Dr. Knabb, greatest risk across eastern parts of Florida.